I sang that one. Welcome to another episode of Tuesday Connect. My name is Kathy Matei and I will be your host today, and it is such a joy to have you with us to walk with you this journey that we have been walking of season 5. Today we are here to talk about elections, and with me are
Baraka, now.
Ted Wahome.
Kadu, Gideon.
Yeah. So before we delve into this very special topic, especially considering the year that we are in, I'd just like to encourage you, if you have not yet watched our other episodes, to feel free to watch, to tell us what you think, to share, and to subscribe. And
Do we have guys watching us like from Kisii and Western?
I don't know, but I know that we have someone watching us
Tell them
from
Filanga free.
Silanga Free.
Nyaribari.
Yaripari.
Nyaribari.
What does that mean?
Nyaribari church.
What?
That means the Lord loves you.
So much.
Yes.
I
Like,
feel-
oh my gosh.
I feel so loved. I feel so loved by the Lord. Thank you. Hit the notification bell, guys, so that you can get to know when we have new content coming our way. Have you been able to interact with TAG? That's Time Alone with God. If you have not, it's right on the same YouTube channel. We have a bunch of devotionals, 10 minutes to 15 minutes. We just come out and talk about God's word, share with you a few minutes. If you would like to do that in the morning, please feel free to go down again to this channel and you will find that there as well. But let's get on to the business of the day. Guys, we are in an election season, yeah? Temperatures are up, literally and figuratively. Temperatures are up. And
What does elections have to do with the sun?
they pandisha temperatures.
Okay.
Even the weather is reacting.
Did I actually make sense?
Yeah, you did.
Kadu went like, that's true, that's true. Thank you, Kadu. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Yeah. So the thing with this election period is that we tend to see some people who are vying for certain positions who are well known to be of less than noble character, and yet people rally behind them and just propel them to power. And I think my first question would be just to ask, why do you think that is so? Why do you think people turn a blind eye to people who are less than morally upright? All of y'all are like, but no one wants to start.
First, it could be the illusion of they have eyes but they don't see.
Okay.
But I think it communicates to the fact that we don't take our politics seriously.
Okay.
We don't take our elections seriously, or we don't even know and understand why we vote. Because look, this is the future of my children. And if I'm voting for questionable people, then obviously there is something amiss with me, who is seeing but not seeing.
Not seeing.
It's also easy to overlook the sins of maybe your compatriots or your people that you already associate with. And so we first maybe begin by associating, and then the other things come in next. So perhaps we don't bring in first evaluating and all these things before we make the decision. And also it could be the fact that perhaps in some cases I've had people say that the options that you were given are few. And so it's as if there's nothing else to do than to overlook. That if you are to be able to vote, you'll have to first overlook that. So I think it's that also, that perhaps the threshold is too low. That
I mean, talking about options, in a country of 40-something million people,
we are 50-something now, I think.
we're 50-something.
Yikes.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
51, 53.
Yeah. Why would you talk about options? Why? Look, we are 50 million. Why? Yeah, it's an oxymoron.
It is. I think it is. And for me, how I view this is, I think we are more pragmatic when it comes to politics than we are idealistic. Like we're not driven by ideals and stuff like that. I mean, I think we've observed elections. Guys who actually come and stand for, this and that and all that usually don't make it. So I think for some strange reason, when it comes to politics, man, it's just pragmatism. And as somebody has rightly, I think Barack has rightly mentioned, oftentimes we don't have really good options. It's between, bad and bad, or, bad and badder. Like, as in, it's just
Rather than most.
Better than
badder
most.
than most. I wonder.
If we look at Barack
Although that's a
and
good
do
thing.
not laugh at our very
No,
intelligent
better than most.
joke.
It means like I'm better than most. Like it's better than most. Like it's better.
You need to run for kidney.
Yeah. Or better.
Baraka, now that I hear this, I'm afraid you might
Yeah.
name
Yeah.
your child. Where? Better than. It's not a cool name. It's not a cool
Don't do
name.
it.
It is
Don't
not
do
a
it.
cool name.
Please don't.
Yeah, anyway, that's on a light note. So I think we become very pragmatic. And honestly, let me say something a bit controversial.
See.
To some degree, you tend to ask yourself, and I guess maybe these are because I also wrestle with some of these questions, right? If, say, for instance, let me use an analogy. If, say, for instance, you had a heart problem and you went to a hospital and you were told that there's this surgeon that is really good, what's your first concern? Is it that this person is nice or that this person is good at what they do? Right? Like sometimes I
It depends.
wonder
Why
and
are you
ask,
going to the hospital? Are you looking for
A nice surgeon.
to work on you, or like a friend?
Exactly, exactly. It depends. If you're going for a friend, sure. I mean, feel free to befriend the nice surgeon. But if you're going for somebody who's competent, right, then their morals at that point in time won't matter. And sometimes, by there, I've asked myself, like, okay, so when it comes to politics, could it be that maybe that's how people are thinking about it? Think about guys who will really benefit this country, who will benefit us, or maybe who would benefit our community or something like that. So, I don't know. Yeah, just a thought.
Is it possible that people also feel that we feel that the politics of this land do not affect the fate of the country? I don't know. I mean, if I vote in August, I'll just vote, I'll be done, I'll go back to my house, I'll go back to my work, I will pay a hefty amount for fuel, I will drive my car and back and forth, I will love my child, I'll just continue to live my life, whether one person is on the throne or not.
But that speaks to the absurdity of it all. I mean, why would you wake up, go queue, get sunburnt,
That's the thing, I won't.
and you know that this thing doesn't affect...
That's the reason why I won't. Because it doesn't affect me.
So, did you hear the question you asked?
Wait, how am I to answer that question?
So,
like, umejisikia? Umejisikia?
and I'm just making sure that I'm answering the right question. Or maybe I am the one who also had my own things. But that we do not actually think seriously about the fate of this country.
Yeah.
That we don't seriously think about. I mean, because politics, as is eschatological. I mean, this is about hope. This is about the future. And so, if I go to the polls and I'm voting for this guy that I know has questionable, all I'm saying is I do not care which direction the future takes. And you see, I mean, you might as well be dead. If you don't care about the direction the future is going to take, there's something totally amiss with you. And so even while we talk pragmatism, I think people, and I wouldn't even call it civic education, I think we need to get to a point where we start questioning a theory. Like, why do we do what we do? Because every 5 years, we get emotional, we abuse each other, temperature high, we go to the polls, and then we go back to our normal lives, where now we are normal. And then after every 5 years, and then you ask yourself, by the way, do we actually think about what we do? And then you complain about, the state of the economy, and you're the one who put that person there. It's like me putting a cat to guard my butcher.
Maybe the cat is vegetarian.
The cat is vegetarian.
Yeah, cats
Hey,
can be trained.
Or it's a cat trapped in a... it's a cow trap.
It's like a cow trap.
It's a
A
cow
cat's
trapped in a
body.
cat's body.
But yeah, I mean, it's plain. It's plain. I don't know why. Look, I am a parent. My kids go to school. If I know that the teachers in that school have questionable character, that they can't trust it with kids, they can't be trusted with kids, do you think I'll take my kids there? No, you wouldn't, But here is someone you're basically trusting with the affairs of a state and your life, because again, politics is omnipresent. Politics affect everything, all right? And then this one person is going to affect every single thing in your country. Is one person is saying, but let's just be pragmatic. This guy is a performer. His character doesn't matter. You can't delink the two.
Do you want to say something?
Yes. I'm just to piggyback on that point. I think, Kadu, you're right, and I feel like it's partly human nature. We tend to not think about issues until they directly affect us.
That's
You know,
true.
I remember even when COVID was a thing, just sometime in China. Like, by the way, I heard about COVID quite late. Wait,
It's okay, this is a safe space.
It's a safe space.
It's a safe
Thank you, viewers, for no judgment. So I heard about
No,
it very
no
late.
vocal.
So I heard about it quite late. But the reason I actually started hearing
How late
about
is
it,
late? Like
that
in
doesn't matter.
September.
It doesn't matter.
Let's
All right.
stuck there.
I mean, the question is, where was he? Because everyone was in this country. Remember that on a particular day.
I
Yeah.
feel like we're missing Ted's point
Aki,
here.
by the way,
Oh,
like,
no, but
here is the
Sorry.
point.
this is
You guys
Ted,
are heading in
and
this
this is
direction.
everyone.
This direction. All right, here is the point. Let's come back. Let's come back to the point. The point is, like, of course, it was before March. March, was it 13th? When it first, whatever.
That's when you heard?
Hey, the point is, right, that before actually COVID made its way to Africa and to Kenya, really, we were not thinking about it.
Yeah, that's true.
If you think about the Ukraine-Russia conflict, you think, oh, so sad, and then you move on with your life until the fuel prices go up, and then you're like, hey, nanya, if vita ishe.
Have you,
You know?
passed by a fueling station?
I know.
You feel like you'll go and smell the fumes of fuel, and then and then upulizie gari yako and then hope that will allow it to move, because what?
Wow.
Did you see that photo of a guy who's taken a photo of a fuel tank going low and saying, "This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine."
Ah, man. Ay.
Oh yeah, hard
Yeah,
times, hard times. Yeah.
But I think to some extent there are two extremes that we tend to find ourselves in. There is the nonchalant, the indifferent, who doesn't care much anything with the politics, who it doesn't touch or seem to affect anything that affects my life. Then there's an overinvestment or an over-obsession with politics, to almost to the extent as if to give too much power to politics, that it has the power to, like I've even had some people even in a show like this a few seconds ago give omnipresence and omnipotence to politics. Well, while politics is as powerful as it is, it's not as, we sometimes you almost think, some people even have been called to be mocked to say, can you even mean that the reason for this political situation is the reason why your home is the, like your uliachwa? So because
Okay. So first, Baraka.
The reasons could be political. So
Let me tell you, there are many reasons why, for instance, boy child anaweza wachwa. Okay? There's many reasons. And, all right, poor infrastructure is a reason.
yeah.
Pests and diseases.
global warming.
Global warming, the lack of conducive environment for doing business.
Even unkempt hair, because you can't afford the kinyozi, because the VAT on the shaving machine
Oh my goodness.
has raised the price of a haircut.
Baraka.
But yeah.
Actually, as Baraka was speaking, I thought that was heartfelt. I don't know.
Baraka. Oh
but
my
but
goodness.
yeah. We need a healthy balance. That's the point. That's the point. That's the point. We need a healthy balance so that we don't ascribe too much power to politics and politicians.
Yeah.
I think our politicians know us too well, and there is a way they manipulate and take advantage of the too much power that we give to them. That also is unhealthy to us in that
Actually,
sense.
you know, politics, we are not giving power to politicians. We have chosen not to exercise our power. Because ultimately, who puts these guys up there? I mean, you've even heard politicians brag that we are a reflection of the voter. No, you are not. You know, a reflection of me. I might not have it all figured out, but I think, Buddha, you know, you can't say that. And so, the whole voting without thought, doing it just like a normal ritual, it's like a rite of passage every 5 years, we have to do this thing, never really thinking about the consequences. That we've sort of just abdicated our power and given it to a bunch of people. I mean, when the constitution starts with all sovereign authority, it belongs to the citizen. And we are here complaining about a guy being left because of, you know.
Ameachwa.
Yeah.
I have another question, guys. So this whole notion that all leaders come from above, how true is it? And how does that affect how believers vote then?
That statement, I think, is an acknowledgement of God's sovereignty or pretend
do
over
they-
the affairs of the nation.
Do they really come from above? 'Cause maybe I know where mine lives.
Well,
I
that's,
do.
you haven't seen their choppers. They always come from above.
By the way. Yeah.
Okay, good point. Good
Face
point.
palm, guys. Face palm. Palm on my face.
Yeah, and so to that extent is that God is the one who oversees the all affairs of men, including elections as well. But that statement has been abused to mean that that whoever the bad choice as it is, that we should just be sort of fatalistic and accept our fate and say, you know what, whatever has happened, it's God's will. Let's make do with whatever we have. But to some extent, it's true that actually God appoints and disposes and raises and deposes and stuff like that.
Not disposes, disposes.
Yeah.
So how then should a Christian vote with that in mind?
I think if I could chime in, Romans 13 is the classic text to go to when you think about this matters of government and Christianity, because it does say that, for instance, the king in that setting was the arm of the Lord. You know, like he's the one who brings justice, and he says, "Man, if you do wrong, actually be afraid, because the government will actually come and bring justice upon you and stuff, right?" But and he's right, like we can't be fatalistic about it, because if you notice, by the way, for instance, if you go to the Old Testament, where the king of Assyria, was actually, I think Isaiah talks about it like the arm of the Lord used Assyria to go and punish Israel, right? But then later, actually, because he acted in his pride, God now comes back to him through the prophet Nahum, and says, guess what? I'm coming for you now. Right? I'm coming for you because you did act in your pride and stuff like that. So the issue of personal responsibility remains. And therefore, that means that even though ultimately, and that word is important, ultimately, every leader comes from above, God does not handpick, in a sense, and drop them
Right.
into State House.
Okay.
He uses our votes. He uses our, the elective process and stuff. And so that lays a responsibility on us to now weigh carefully, use whatever metrics that we use, and maybe we'll get to that in electing leaders.
I have another question.
And God hopes that in the process we exercise wisdom as we do it. I mean, two examples that run through my head. Remember the story of Saul, when Saul is being crowned king. God tells them, look, you don't need a king, by the way, I am your king. This guy will tax you, this guy will overwork you, this guy is basically going to hurt you. What do they say? No.
Give us.
No soul, no peace. Give us soul. We want to be like the other nations. And so in a sense you almost feel like God gives them soul as judgment on them and their folly. Barabbas. Do I release Barabbas or do I release Jesus? Everybody knows by that Jesus is innocent, but somehow we want Barabbas because at that point it's like people have lost their minds. And I think many times when it comes to politics, we just sort of just lose our minds. And many of us, again, I don't know why Barabbas, even in our political spaces, is the appealing one. Yeah.
Right, let me ask this other question. So let's zoom in. Let's zoom in now to people who are believers, right? So you look around and you see people vying for certain posts, right? And your options are limited. Kabisa, you're looking around and you see that there's no morally upright person to vote for. What should a Christian do with that dilemma? Should you just not vote at all? Because, I mean, the option of voting for someone that you don't believe in is I mean, it's bad. It's bad. You can't vote for someone whose virtues and values do not align with what you believe. And so, should Christians vote at all if they feel that there's no one who represents them that they can vote for?
There is, well, Terry mentioned it earlier on, that there may be people that you may vote for who you may choose a different, you may want to choose a different index with which to measure the quality. And it may be that their experience in international affairs and other things that
Oh,
you
people think of
consider,
that.
you may say,
Baraka.
I will think,
Baraka is international. Baraka.
I will
Yeah,
use
yeah,
their
Baraka.
experience. So there's diplomacy in that sense. There is there may be their wealth
Their
of knowledge,
grasp of the English
their,
language.
their
That's
grasp
important.
representing the nation in international affairs, their grasp of
English language?
economics and and the other things. So you may decide, for this reason, I will choose this person because these things I think they're important for someone who is in the office
Even
of
though they may
president.
not be a Christian.
Even though they may not be a Christian.
Okay.
Because just the fact that they are not Christian means that there's something fundamental about your values that you don't share with them.
Okay.
But you will still choose them nonetheless. More to that is the fact that the person who is coming in to be in office is going to get there nonetheless. With your vote or no vote to that extent. So my abstinence could actually be an allowance or a permitting of the wrong person getting in that sense. So abstinence by itself is not an excuse to that extent. So if someone says, I'm not going to vote, someone is going to get voted anyway.
Yeah.
And so how is your abstinence helping the situation? So it's a self-defeating exercise to come to think of it.
Yeah. Allow me to, and I think, sorry, he's raised a good point. If we can zoom out a little bit, there's a worldview issue sometimes that I think we need to address. And that has to do with this whole issue of how do we engage the culture? And especially, we're looking at the lost culture, like the world as it is described in the Bible.
Yeah.
You know, the evil system against God, right? How do you engage with it? Now, there's many theories and many ways that we can do that, but 3 primary ways that people do it. Number 1, completely avoid it. All right? Try and not engage with the world, kabisa, like just live,
Be a monk.
be a monk, go, in fact, live as a desert hermit somewhere, and just hang out there. So avoid contact with the world. And by the way, there are people who've, throughout history of the church, done that.
Yeah.
Then there are those ones who say,
Probably the
man,
wrong guy.
sorry. When I say desert hermit, I did not mean Rongai.
Those are wrong guys.
Kabisa.
They are
Although
wrong guys.
Mavoko,
Wrong guys.
although Mavoko could be,
The wrong guy.
that's a new one.
Yeah.
Wrong guys. And then there's another way where you now, I think what Baraka was saying, like overly obsessed with, for instance, changing the structures of the world, right? And really, really like, I'm out to change the world, I'm out to change everything. And by the way, even that phrase alone is quite dangerous.
Yeah.
Because guess what?
You can't.
I don't know that we can really change the world in the way that many people think that we can change the world. We can influence and impact the world very positively. But there are certain aspects in which we can't change the world. And I get that from the parable that Jesus used to say that, some enemy came and planted the parable of the weeds.
Yeah,
wheat was growing, or maybe a good crop was growing, and then the evil one came and planted both, weeds. And, one of the farmers said, hey, can we pull them out? Akasema, no, wait until the judgment, and then let them both grow. Which basically means that in God's wisdom, both the kingdom of darkness and the kingdom of light will grow concurrently till the end of history. So we should not expect that things will change completely. We will Christianize the world and stuff and all that. We will do influence and stuff, but also the kingdom of darkness will continue to grow, unfortunately. So then the other question is, all right, so what's our third alternative? And it's what someone has called faithful presence, right? Faithful presence means that you are present in the world in very meaningful and significant ways. So you do have contact with the world. You do have contact with this evil system, so to speak. So when you're going to buy bread, you don't go to buy bread from a Christian baker, right? It does mean you can actually and should actually even consider buying bread from quote-unquote secular institutions. When we're doing like a myriad of things, we do engage with the world, right? We do engage with the world in various ways. Otherwise, we'd have to look for Christian coffee,
Christian investors.
Christian investors,
Christian investors.
right? Christian meat, halal coffee. That would be an interesting one.
Or Christian Dior. Very important.
Wow. But I can go to bed.
Right? And I know Lale. Oh, that's a good one. Right? So so we do end up actually engaging with the world to a certain degree. And so people who say that, hey, no, like even like say when you're vote only for Christians, I think are living in some kind of utopia. Because you cannot, in God's world, sort of separate yourself from the world, maybe in some aspects, but in some others, uko tu sawa and stuff. Otherwise, you'd have to find Christian landlords. You'd have to use Christian roads. I don't know what that would look like, and stuff like that. But you get what I mean. So I think the worldview.
Church road.
No, actually, they are narrow. Christian roads.
The narrow roads. Oh, man.
Wide is the road that
Church
leads.
road is a good one.
Ted, you were saying?
I've forgotten.
So basically, to just continue that thought, we can't rule out the effect of the fall and sin on all of us, and that includes our politics, and that includes our candidates, that all of us are affected. And because that is what we are, then first of all, we need to take our hope away from humans and people. Because whenever you hear people speak, there is so much hope on an individual. And of course, these guys come and paint a picture of what they'll do, and we know they won't. Okay? So just move away from this whole idea of putting your hope in a fellow human being. Because just as they are, we're all tainted by sin. And so even the way we view things is corrupted. So move away from this whole idea of thinking that there has to be a perfect candidate. As long as they're human, there won't be a perfect person. But then you can ask the lesser evil, like which ones of these candidates at least kidogo aligns with my values, align with my political philosophy, align with just generally my worldview, how I view life. Even that sometimes is a hard call. But then there are clear red flags. And one of them is called history. We are able to look at the history of an individual and say, by the way, this guy, And so we shouldn't turn our eyes away from that. As believers, again, we can't say that we won't vote, because that is abdicating your moral responsibility. You're basically saying that I don't care about what happens in my country, I don't care about what happens in my neighborhood, nyinyi endeleni, mimi I'll just leave. And then, when these things come to affect you, you start complaining. So we have to vote, because that is the one tool that God has given us to try and make change, or influence change when we come to every electoral cycle.
Yeah, and I feel like we've said that a lot in this season, that whole aspect of playing your part and trusting that God is sovereign over all matters, because I tend to feel that it's a possibility for a Christian to actually vote and to have the person that they consider to be right for that seat not come in, and for them to actually be quite disillusioned. What does that mean? What is God doing in this land? Or to have that person that they voted for get in, and for them to end up being prideful or to look down on the people who voted otherwise, or
And by the way,
something like that.
when you look at history, there are moments when God has used people who are not Christians. God calls Cyrus my servant. And he says, I will do ABCD through him. I will do ABCD through him. So ultimately, first of all, God knows his candidate. There will be, someone will be president.
Yeah.
This person will have been allowed to sit there by God. So whether you're aggrieved or not, this is God's decision. But then God refers to these people as my servant. They're there to serve a certain purpose that God has for that season. And so, again, the whole, can we trust God's decisions with whoever wins? Yeah. But it doesn't negate the fact that we must play our part.
So we've talked about playing our part a lot, right? And even as we come to the end of this episode, I'd just like to get to hear your thoughts on how should Christians get involved directly in politics? Should Christians get involved in politics at all? Is it too dirty a game for a person who professes Christ to get into? Let's get to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, and get into politics by all means, just like with any other office and any other opportunities that they're there to serve. But I will begin with the responsibility that you have for where you are, where God has placed you. I think it's one of the statements we make about how go next door. When you're thinking of evangelism and you're thinking of people to win for Christ and share the gospel with, stop worrying about so many things happening out there in the world when God has placed people in your circle who need the gospel right where you are at. And so in what ways are you leveraging on the gifts that you have and the opportunities that you have to serve your family and to serve the community you are in and your church community, before you begin worrying about, I want to be an MCA to serve my ward. In what ways are you serving the people that you have with the gifts that you have and the resources that you have? Begin there first. Then now we can begin to talk about the other questions of all serving the nations and stuff. Then secondly, also, what responsibility do you have for the people who share a different political persuasion? Who are your brothers in the faith? Are you willing to accommodate the fact that that you may have different political opinions with your friends and your family in your circle? And in what ways are you engaging them in ways that are meaningful?
Yeah.
So I think I will say that you begin there. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, that's very helpful. And I would add, I think there's and to be honest, I think there's something also that I've just been thinking about, but I haven't gotten to it, and I hope to, is there's a role that we can play in holding the government accountable beyond posting on social media. Even that is good. I've seen sometimes just when pressure piles up, either on the mainstream media or social media, for action to be taken against something. But I think even on a small level, by the way, the government actually has platforms for us to go and say, address our local representatives. So there are meetings that you can attend and stuff like that, just to hold the government accountable. Say, hey, we saw that there was a budget for this and this and this and this. This has not happened, and stuff like that. And I can imagine if more and more people started attending and pressuring the Ninis, very soon people realize, hey, okay, people are not laissez-faire like we think they are.
Laissez-faire.
Laissez-faire. And so people are not like laid back, and so maybe those are some places we can actually begin to affect change. Because can you imagine if, by the way, we just utilized 70% of our budget? Honestly, by the way, just 70% of what? Almost 2.8 trillion. I think that's a lot of money, man. That we can
make it 50.
50.
Just 50%.
50%, even just 50%, right? Can you imagine if we were just able to pressure the government and we are able actually to maximize on that? I think we could see some significant, maybe it doesn't have to get lost. Maybe we don't have to lose $1 trillion every year to corruption and stuff like that. If many of us actually now start demanding and saying, hey, no, we actually need results.
Very interesting. Any thoughts?
Well, So politics, is actually a compound Greek word.
Oh,
Polis and suke.
and ticks.
And basically it means life in the city.
Oh,
That is what politics means. Life in the
Allah.
city. They say the Latin it's parley, let's talk, let's converse. So if politics is basically life in the city, and if you go back to Augustine's city of man and city of God, and God has placed us here, God wants us to basically sort of turn this city, make it look like God's city. And so God calls on the believer to be the person who sort of influences policy and legislation and industry and all these things
Yeah.
that we can be felt.
Yeah,
And one way of doing that is not necessarily running for a political office. As I said, look, you're Jerusalem. What are you doing with, there are things you can do. Sometimes we have access to some of these people. Are we able to have conversations with them and sort of just try to influence their thinking? But ultimately, politics is about hope. And we can't put our hope in politics because humans will always fail us. I think ultimately our hope lies in God. And even so, as we go into the elections, God must be our hope.
God must be our hope. That's where we're going to end today. There's a lot more to say about this topic, but we're going to stop there for now. Do you have any questions that you would like us to answer? Any things that you would like us to think through and engage you in? Please write down on the comment section, or write down, DM us on either one of our social media handles, and we would be more than glad to, at the end of this season, answer these questions to the best of our ability and pray that the Lord would allow us to grow together in this way. Our desire and our hope is that you would be proactive in terms of our civic duty, and so that we can propel the name of Jesus out there, even in this area that we are talking about today. That's it from us today. Thank you for joining us. We hope that you will join us again next week for another episode of Tuesday Connect.